Hey guys, how's it going? This is Simon, and this is the second of what will be two videos that I'm creating to help you prepare for Test 3 in the UNIX security course at Mohawk College. In this video, we're working on Lab 7, which is titled Jails and Limited Access, and what makes this lab cool is that what we're going to be doing is preventing everyone from having the ability to log in as root. So we are going to be locking root's password, we are going to be preventing anyone from using SSH to log in as root, and we are going to prevent the ability to log into the console as root. So how are we going to do things as root? We are going to give Alice and Bob the ability to use the sudo command. And if you don't know what the sudo command does, it allows you to execute things as different users. So we can use the sudo command to execute things as root. But even with sudo, we can limit how these users use sudo. So for example, Bob is going to be restricted so that he can only use sudo when he uses the command password, so that he can change users' passwords, but that's it. He can't do anything else with sudo as root. So that's going to be really cool. We're going to cover that, and then we are going to be covering the jails. So we're going to be using chroot, and with chroot we're going to be basically creating a very restricted environment. So the jail is a restricted environment where when people log in to their account with SSH, they're going to have limited access to directories and files. So you're going to see that as well. There's a lot to cover, but it's actually not too bad. I think it's pretty easy to get. I'm going to do my best to explain this. If you have any questions, let me know. But with that being said, let's get into the lab. So let's go down here. This overview is showing you the same overview as Lab 6. If you did do Lab 6, you'll remember you had to make sure you kept your virtual machines, the build server, the router, the gateway for this lab. So if you completed Lab 6, which you should have, and you left everything the exact same, then you should be able to start your virtual machines no problem. If you haven't done Lab 6, do that first. I have a video on that. I'll show you how to do everything. But make sure that you do Lab 6 and that when you do finish it, save everything you've done, because we are going to be using those machines in this lab here. So when you start these virtual machines, we really don't have to use the router or the build server much. So we're going to minimize those, but we are going to be using the G01 virtual machine. So I'm just going to minimize all that, let this load, and then we can go to part A, which is verifying the G01 configuration. So there's 4 things we're going to test. The first one being that we can log in as root Bob and Alice from the console. That should work, no problem. The second thing says we're going to log in as root Bob and Alice from SSH. Bob and Alice should be successful. Root should not. This kind of made me think that it was implying root should be successful, and if you go down to part B, it will tell us that we need to make sure that root is not successful, so that is one of the steps. So if you do log in as root successfully, that's okay. I'll show you how to get rid of the ability to log in as root through SSH. It is one of the steps, but if you followed Lab 6, if you followed what I did in my video, you won't have the ability to log in as root with SSH already, so you're kind of ahead of the game. But that's the only thing. Bob and Alice should be successful, no problem, and then you should be able to use the su command from Bob to root and from Alice to root, no problem. So let's do that right now. Here's the G01 virtual machine. First thing I'm going to do is log in as root. That was successful, so I'm going to exit, log in as Bob. That was successful. I'll type in su and hit enter, type in root's password, and that was successful, so that's good. Let's log in as Alice. Type su, enter, root's password, and that was successful as well. Let's test out the SSH. We'll go into command prompt on our host machine and type in SSH Alice at 10.3.0.10 user pass, and that should work. Go ahead and exit that, try it as Bob, it should work. Perfect. Exit. And like I told you, when I do this as root, it will not work for me. It should not work for you, but if it does, that's okay. Perfect. Now, this isn't talked about in the lab, but a couple times that I've done this, I did have a warning message because I have a known host file for SSH, and because I keep on changing my virtual machines and doing things with them, sometimes you will have this pop up and you'll be like, how do I fix that? So if you do have this big warning message pop up when you try to use SSH into this virtual machine, I'll show you what you can do. Essentially, go into File Explorer, go to your C drive, users, go to your file or folder or whatever it is, and go to the .ssh folder. You're going to see known host. You can just delete it, and then you should be able to run SSH no problem. So for now, I'm going to minimize this, but if this is working and root is not able to log in, you don't have to worry about the next step that I'm going to do, and you can actually close this window. But if you could log in as root, minimize it for now, and we'll go through this. So this section is for anyone where they had the ability to log in to root as SSH. What we're going to do is in Geo1, we're going to log in as root, go into the VI editor, and edit the file located here. Okay, so that is where the file is located. It's hinted at right here. And what you're looking for is a line in the middle of the document that says permit root login. So it's this guy right down here. Permit root login. Make sure there's no number sign in front of it or pound symbol or whatever you want to call it. Make sure it's not commented out, and make sure it doesn't say yes. You want it to say no. So if you have the number sign or the comment sign or whatever you want to call it, just delete it. And if it says yes, change it to no. Go ahead, save and quit, and then type in service sshd restart. You should be okay. There should be no problems. And then go back into the command prompt and try it again. So I'll just try ssh root at 10.3.0.10. Permission denied, so I'm good to go. You should be good as well now. So with part B, we have completed this step. So everyone should be on the same page now. We can move to this step right here, which says no local access for root, and it says prevent root from logging in at the console, hint this file right here. So let's just clear this, and I want to see what that file looks like first. So I'm going to say cat /etc/secure. And I don't know if it's Eddie, I don't know if it's just security, but it's spelled weird. So go ahead and hit enter, and you get this list. And it does say prevent root from logging in at the console, so your instinct is, oh, okay, well, maybe I should just get rid of console. But I'll show you that that does not work. So you don't have to follow me on this step. I'm just going to show you that you can't just remove the console for this to work. So if I say, okay, well, I'm not going to put the console in there, save it and quit, and then exit from root. If I type in root and log in, I'm fine. It lets me log in still. I should not be able to log in. And the reason is this guy right here, TTY1. So it says last login Friday, April 5th at a time that is not my time on TTY1. So if we look at that file again, you're going to see TTY1 is also something that was in here, and that's why I can log into this console. If you want to make it easy for yourself for this lab, the best thing you can do is just do this. Say echo redirect, so you're echoing nothing. Don't append it, redirect it, only one arrow, into that file. Hit enter, and if you want, go ahead and cat that file now and show that there is absolutely nothing in there. So there's nothing in there now, and we should be able to exit, try to log in again, and it should fail. Alright, perfect. So don't panic. You're not out of the gate just yet. Root is still accessible. It tells us that verify that root cannot log in to the console, but we should still be able to log in as root using the su command. So let's do that. Let's log in as Alice. Type su, type in root's password, and we're still root. We're still good. So what I'm going to suggest you do now, before we move to part C, is I want you to take a snapshot. The reason for this is simple. If the next step prevents us from using root and logging in with the password, which is what it's going to do, there is a possibility that we mess something up down here and we can't log in as root anymore, and that could be disastrous. It does tell us if you find yourself locked out of the root account, you will need to boot the system in single user mode and undo the actions that locked you out. Instead of going through all of this, just make the snapshot. That way if you log yourself out, restore the snapshot, and you know you're back to part C and you still have the ability to use the password if you need to. In this video, you shouldn't need to do that. If you follow me and follow everything I do, you won't have that problem, but I like putting the snapshot in just in case. So let's go to part C. With part C, we can see the title. It says root account. We don't need no stinking root account. And I've already alluded to the fact that the very first thing we're going to do is lock the root user. Specifically, we're locking the password. So what we're going to be doing is typing this command, password-l root. Make sure that your root as Alice. So make sure you su, put in the password, and now type in password-l to lock and say root. There's no verification, it just does it. Locking password for user root, and it's successful. Alright, now it says check that root is locked. So let's go into PuTTY. Log in at 10.3.0.10. I'll make this bigger for you. Alright, Alice, user pass, su, says password. It says incorrect password. That is what it will say. So you didn't necessarily do it wrong, but just in case, let's type su again. When it asks us for the password, just make sure you typed it in properly. Incorrect password. So even though I know I put in the right password, we still are getting this message, which is perfect. It should come up, we've locked the password. There is no password. So let's just clear this. Let's minimize PuTTY and let's move on to the next step. So what we're going to do before this step actually is we're going to make sure that Alice and Bob are part of a group called Wheel. Now you might have done this in Lab 6. If you followed my video, you might not have done this because I don't typically put them in Wheel unless it tells me to put them in Wheel. So what I'm going to do is first let's just check that Alice and Bob are not in Wheel. So we can say ID Alice, and we can see groups. Alice is in her own group and Acme ADM. So that is something that we created in Lab 6. So that was good, but she's not part of the actual Wheel group. Let's try it again for Bob. Same thing. He's not part of Wheel. So let's make them part of Wheel. And if you want to make sure that Wheel is a group that exists already, you can simply just say group add Wheel, but it already exists. It should. What we're going to do is, I'm going to clear this. We're going to type in user mod dash small a capital G Wheel Alice. Just hit at the up arrow, put Bob in there as well. And now you can say ID Alice, and we can see Alice is part of the Wheel group, and ID Bob, and he is as well. So if you have Bob and Alice in the Wheel group, that's perfect. Now we can move on to step 3 of part C, which is enable sudo. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit this file, but how we're going to edit this file is by typing in this command, user sbin vi sudo. Do that right now. Okay, and when you get into this file, go to the very bottom. So just go to the very bottom, because near the bottom you will see a line that looks like this. Percent wheel all equals all. And I won't explain what this means just yet. I will in just a moment down here. But for now, it just tells us to uncomment the line to open up sudo quite a bit. So we are just going to get rid of this number sign or pound sign, whatever you'd like to call it. And it looks like there's two lines here, one that says no password and one that looks exactly like what we have right here. That's the only one we're concerned about. So hit I to insert, go up here where it says %wheel all. Just get rid of that percent, or just get rid of that number sign or pound sign or the comment sign. Go ahead and save it and quit. Okay, so now anyone in the wheel group should be able to use sudo for whatever they need to, and it should work. So I'll clear this, and I'll leave this window open as root. I'm going to go into PuTTY and try this. So in PuTTY, I'm still Alice. I'm not root, I'm just Alice. And we can see that because I can say, who am I? And it says Alice. Now I'm going to try sudo who am I. So I'm following these steps right here. So sudo who am I? And you get this message and it asks to put in Alice's password. And we're going to say user pass, which is the password I gave for Alice. And it tells me that I'm root. So when I use sudo who am I, it comes up as root. So let's try sudo user Bob who am I? Now I'm Bob. If I type who am I again, I'm Alice. So you can see you can use sudo to be several different accounts. You can be the Bob account. You can act as the root account. So that is a very powerful tool. Let's continue. Let's type in this command. We're going to see the permissions for the sudoers file. So ll etc sudoers. Okay, so we can see the owner in the group can read this, no one else can. And the owner in the group is root. So if I try to cat this as Alice, it says permission denied. But if I add a sudo command just before this, now I can read it. Same thing down here. We're going to try this again. So let's just clear this. Tail, so we're doing this as Alice. Log secure will not let me do the same thing, but just put a sudo in front of it, and now we have access to everything here. So that's really cool. And then finally, if we want, we can type in this command sudo bash, and now we are in a new terminal as root. So that's really, really cool. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can minimize this for now. This is where we are going to, as it says, tighten things up a bit. We have two things we have to modify in that sudoers file. The first thing is we want to make sure Alice can run any command as root, but not have the ability to run commands as Bob or any other user. So as you saw up here, you could potentially sign in and do things as Bob even though you're Alice. We don't want that ability. We just want you to be able to run any command you want as root, but that's it. So let's get this file up, run this command again, and we'll see what we can do to make this work. So we're going to say user sbin vi sudo, and I'm going to say go to the very bottom. It's a little bit further up from where we were last time, but I'll show you. So if you go to the very bottom, right here you're going to see a line that says root all equals all. If you go up a little bit further, you can kind of read the comments. You can see what the syntax really means, and this is where I'm going to explain what the syntax does mean. It says user machine equals commands, allow root to run any command anywhere. It's a little bit confusing because you have root all equals all. What this is really saying is this is the user, and this user on all terminals, so all machines, for anyone. So any user has the ability to run all commands. So as root on all machines, it doesn't matter who you sudo in as, you'll have the ability to run all commands just fine. So once again, all here means all terminals or all machines. The all here means users or accounts. All accounts. So you can sudo into any account you want. And then all here means the commands. So the very first thing that we want to do is give Alice the ability to run any command as root, but not let her have the ability to run commands as Bob or any other user. So let's hit I, insert, and let's give her an entry under root. we're going to say Alice, tab, and we'll say all machines. It doesn't say that we can't do this on a specific machine, so we'll say all equals, but we don't want her to be able to do anything as anyone else other than root. So when she uses sudo, it has to be specifically root. So all we have to do is leave this blank. If you leave it blank, the default is you can only use sudo as root. Hit tab twice, and because this row is specifying what commands we can use, we want all commands. So we're going to type in all again. And we're done for Alice. That's all you have to do. So Alice on all terminals as root only. Blank means default only root. And then all here means all commands. The next task is to make sure that Bob can only run the password command as root. This will allow Bob to reset the user passwords, but nothing else. So let's make an entry for Bob. Bob, once again, most likely all machines or all terminals, and most likely only as root. Doesn't necessarily say it can't be, but we are going to imagine Bob should only be able to use sudo as root. But we can't say all here because it can only be one command. So how we're going to do this is we're going to type the full path of the command password, which is user bin password. Now, if you don't know how I knew that, if you don't know where that executable is, for your test, the best thing that you can do is type in find on the whole system the name of your command, so in this case password, and redirect any errors or anything that says permission denied into dev null. There we go. We have a bunch of different things here, but we'll probably recognize a couple. For example, etc password, that's the actual file that shows all the user accounts, the UID numbers, the GID numbers. So that's not the executable command, and we probably know that the user bin or the bin files, they're the executable commands. So this is the one that we actually want. If you wanted to try something else, for example, let's say user add. You can see now we have two entries for that, and once again we have a user sbin user add. So it's not always going to be in the same directory, but you will kind of see a commonality of where your executables are if you don't already know that. So that's how you find out where you can find the full path of the executable itself. I'm just going to minimize this for now, and that's why I put that in there. If you want to put in multiple commands, you can. So as long as it's telling you don't do all commands but only do specific ones, you can put as many as you need to. You can put in user bin password and user slash, I think it was sbin slash user add. You can put user add, user mod. You can do a bunch here. So that might be on the test. You might have several different things that Bob should be able to do, and you'll have to know how to do that. So in this case, we only need one, but you can put in multiple. If it's all, just type in all. But as long as it's not all, you have to put in the full path of each of the actual commands that you want Bob to allow. But we're not done yet. We are technically done for Alice and Bob's entries, but we did do something that is going to counteract what we do here. If we go back down to the wheel, Bob and Alice are part of the wheel group. So the problem with that is it's saying here the group wheel can basically do everything. They can run all commands on all terminals as all users. So Bob is going to get that permission. It's not going to say, well, this one's denied, so we're only going to let Bob do the one that's denied. It will actually say, well, this one says Bob can do all, so we're going to allow that. So what we can do is just comment this out and no longer use this to make this work properly. So just put the comment symbol there, number sign, pound, whatever, and now we should be able to save this and it should work. So go ahead, save it and quit. And if you want, you can run tests on PuTTY if you're not confident that you did everything right. I'm pretty confident, so I'm going to exit out of everything and I'm going to sign in as Alice. And what I'm going to do is test that this is working properly. So how I can test this is Alice should be able to run as root pretty much every command. She should be able to run every command as root. So we're going to say, let's try cat, and let's see if she can look at the IP tables. I'm not going to put sudo because Alice should not have permissions to run this, and I just want to prove that. So without sudo, if I type cat etc sysconfig IP tables, we can see permission denied. But if I type in sudo and I put in her password, now I can see them. So she has permission to use sudo as root. So that's perfect. So let's clear this. Let's exit and let's log into Bob. And we'll do the same thing. Cat etc sysconfig IP tables. We are denied. But if we do sudo, we should be still denied. User pass. And there we go. Sorry, user Bob is not allowed to execute that command. Okay, well, we should be able to at least use password. So let's just clear this. And I have a user named Boris. You should have a user named Boris as well because we created Boris in Lab 6. So let's just try to see if we can change Boris's password. So we'll say sudo password Boris. Put your password in for Bob. And now we can change Boris's password. And I'm just going to put in something like Simon is awesome and just confirm it. And there we go. Successful. So everything was done properly. So once you've done this, go ahead and take a snapshot because we're going to move to part D where we're going to make a jail. All right. So Part D says chroot. We're going to be basically making this jail. Like I said, it is a restricted environment so that there's very limited access to directories and files for anyone that uses SSH to log into their account. So a lot of this is just basically following all the steps that they have right here. There's no real guesswork. The very first thing is it wants us to say sudo yum install yum utils. This should already be ready to go, but we're going to do this as Alice because Alice has the ability to use sudo for everything. So exit Bob, log in as Alice, try saying sudo yum install yum utils. You should already have it. If you don't, just say yes and accept it. The next step is make a directory called alt_root in the Acme tools directory, which you should already have. So we're going to say sudo make directory acme_tools alt_root. There we go. The next thing we're going to do is create a home in our chroot tree to house the should be RPM database. So we're going to run this command right here. Sudo make directory -p acme_tools alt_root var lib rpm. Okay. Now it says before we can run yum, we need to populate alt_root with the basic release files. So we're going to run this command first. Sudo yum downloader -- destination directory. We'll put in temp and then CentOS release.x86_64 enter. Okay. Now we're going to install it. Put that here. So sudo rpm -nodeps -root the jail, which is Acme Tools alt_root space -ivh, and then in the temp folder it is CentOS release *rpm, or you could just hit tab and just get the full name. It's just a really long name, and hit enter. That's good to go. So we can now move on to the next step. We're going to make a directory, which is going to be the hide directory for our yum repos d directory. We're going to put all of the repo files in the hide directory, and then we're going to take the repo files from our etc yum.reposd directory and copy all of them into our new yum.reposd directory in the jail. So just copy these, character for character, and you should be good. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll clear this, say sudo make directory Acme Tools alt_root etc yum.repos.d hide sudo move. This one's very long, but just show you. This is the one that I put in right now. And now I'm doing the last one, the copy command. There we go. Okay, so next thing is to install bash in the jail. So we're just going to copy this command. And we'll let this install. It takes a few seconds. Once we're done that, what we'll do is install SSH in the jail. So we're just going to basically put this command in, and this one doesn't take as long, which is nice. And once we do that, it's going to ask us to try out our new jail. So now that this is done, we're going to hit clear and we're going to try this out. So we're going to run this command first. Sudo user sbin chroot the acme_tools alt root directory. And you can see now we're in this new bash terminal, bash-4.1. And it says, take a look around, try these commands, ls find cat. So we'll say ls. We can see a bunch of directories already there. Let's try to find in everything on the system the password command or executable. And I'm just going to basically copy what I did here. The same thing here, which gave me all of these results, and we'll see if we get the same amount of results. You just get one. We get etc/password. But this isn't actually the same as this one necessarily. This is the one in our jail. And let's just see if we can look at it. So we'll say sudo cat etc password. Sudo command not found. Can we cat it? We can, but it definitely doesn't look the same. We don't even have Alice, we don't have Bob, we don't have Boris, so it looks very, very different. So let's just clear this for now. Let's try to VI something. We can create our own file if we want. We could say VI Simon is awesome.txt, and it says VI command not found. We don't even have the VI editor in our jail yet. Processes. Let's just see what processes there are. Can't do it. Now ping we should be able to do. If we type in ping 10.1.1.20, let's just do a count of 2. That worked. Let's actually ping BO1. That did not work. So the host file is not the same either. We could have done that on the Geo1 virtual machine, which I'll show you later. Actually, I'm in Geo1 right now. If I ping C3 BO1, that works. So in our jail, we don't have that working. Let's try SSH. We did install it, right? So that should work. SSH root at, and we're going to use the IP address because clearly that works. Enter. Oh, that doesn't work. And that's okay. It does tell us, oops, we need a few more things in our jail for that to work. So let's go down here, and we're just going to basically copy these lines character for character. So this is very easy to do. Just clear this. First one is going to be make nod, or mknod dev urandom c19. Enter. There's no errors, so probably did it. The next thing is type in this command: /sbin /makedev tty. No errors. Okay. Now we're going to try this, and it's going to tell us that dev null already exists, and that's okay. That's not going to impact this lab at all, but we'll still put it in anyway. So make nod dev null c13, enter. It says dev null file exists, so that's okay, but we will change its permissions. Perfect. Now we're going to try SSH, and it should work just fine. So root at 10.1.1.20. Yes. And there we go. Look at that. So SSH works. We can exit out of that, and we can go down here to part E. If you want, go ahead and take a snapshot of this as well, because everything is working the way we want it so far. Part E can be a little bit tricky, because what we're going to be doing is telling SSHD where to drop users by editing etc ssh sshd config file. Right now, if you try to SSH into one of the users, it'll take them into their normal home directory, but it also allows you to see the entire system. And I'll prove that by going to command prompt ssh alice at 10.3.0.10 user pass. And you can see Alice at Geo1 home directory. If I type in ls, there's nothing there, that's okay. But if I type in sudo cat etc password user pass, I get Alice Bob Boris. So this is the actual password file that is on our full system. Remember when we tried that in the bash-4.1 jail? It didn't let us. So we are in the full system when we SSH currently into Alice. We're going to change that. So we're going to just close this. And then in here, let's get out of the bash. Let's get back into the normal system of Geo1. So that's where I am right now. Clear that. So as Alice, we're going to edit this file. And I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to say sudo vi etc ssh sshd underscore config, and we're in this file, and you're going to go to the very bottom because we're going to add 2 lines, and it's up to you how you're going to be putting these lines in there, and it's not really specified how to do it, but this is what we're going to do. You can say match user, and you can put in Alice, Bob. You can do that if you want. Now, based on the previous lab, it only wanted people from the Acme ADM group to be able to use SSH. So what I'm going to do is, instead of match user, I'm just going to put in match group Acme ADM. And what that's going to do is say, okay, we're going to match this group and put them in the chroot directory, and we're going to point that directory to where our actual jail is located, which is acme underscore tools / alt underscore root. So that's all you have to do. Match either user if you want to put the users in, or match group, and you can put in the group, and that's what I've done because we said we're allowing only groups from Acme admin anyway, or ADM. And then we said the chroot directory, which is the location it's going to go into, is going to be this right here, which is our jail. So that's good. So let's just save that and quit. All right, let's restart the service. So sudo service sshd restart. We didn't get any syntax errors or anything, so it looks like it's good to go. It tells us once we do that, we should be able to try to SSH from our workstation and see if we get into the jail. And I think that we will. SSH Alice at 10.3.0.10 user pass, and look at that, we are in bash-4.1. But we did get an error. ID cannot find name for user ID 500. And it does tell us that we should be logged in, but with an error message. And we should be in the wrong directory. Let's try that as well. Present working directory is, it says the root folder. Well, we want to be in our home directory. Remember when I previously signed in as Alice, I was in my own home directory. So we need to be in the home directory. And if I say cat password, I can see that I don't exist anymore. Alice, Boris, Bob, they're not here anymore. So that's why we're getting that error that says cannot find name for user ID 500. So we're probably going to have to fix a few things. So let's just exit from here again, and let's look and see what we have to do. It says make the necessary additions to the jail so that Alice and Bob can log on via SSH and be placed in the jail home directory. So the first things first is we have to make sure that the password file is up to date. So easy enough to do. We can just simply sudo, and we can say cat. You know what we'll do is just copy. No, we'll cat etc password, right? And we're gonna redirect it, not append it, to acme_tools alt_root etc password. So what that's going to do is it's going to take the entire contents of here and replace the contents that are in here. So that should basically allow us to have Alice, Boris, and Bob in this file. So we'll hit enter, and it says permission denied. Okay, so let's see why. Okay, you know what? Let's try this. I apologize. I thought that would work. But we can easily just sudo remove acme_tools alt_root etc password. So now it's gone. And now we'll just sudo copy etc password, and we'll put that into that. So now if I sudo cat acme tools alt_root etc password, we can see Alice, Bob, and Boris are there. So just in case I didn't explain myself, what I did was I removed the password file that was in there originally, and then I copied our normal password file from our normal etc directory and root and put it in the etc directory of the jail. And that's how I got that file in there. So that's how I did it, and it should work now. But the problem is that if we clear this for a second, let's look and find out if the jail even has home directories for all these users. So let's just ls sudo ls acme tools alt_root and say home. There apparently is a home, but there's nothing in it. So let's make directories for these users. So I'm going to say sudo make directory. We can put the P in there if we want, just to play it safe. Home Alice, Bob, and Boris isn't part of the group, but whatever. We'll give him one just so he doesn't feel left out. Let's just see if it's there now. Okay, they're all there. So that's good, but there is a problem with this. It won't work just yet, or it won't work the way we want it to just yet. And I'll show you what the problem is. Let's do a long listing of those directories. Alice, Bob, and Boris don't own their home directories. And if you look, other users can read and execute, but they can't write. So that means Alice, Bob, and Boris can't even write to their home directories. So that's not any good. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. What we're going to do is say sudo chown alice. We're going to make sure we say acme tools alt_root home Alice. Let's do it for Bob. even though he's not going to use it. But we're thinking about him in spirit, and that's all that matters. Okay, so now that we've done that, that should help us out significantly with making sure that this works. So Alice now can do whatever she wants. She owns this, the group owns it, and other users can read and execute, but that's about it. So we can probably leave these permissions. I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. And we do have another step that we need to do. It says make the necessary additions to the jail so that Alice and Bob can use host names like R01 and B01. This is something I showed you before. We couldn't use those before. So that should be easy enough to figure out. All we have to do is get rid of the host file that's in our actual jail and copy the one that we have from our actual host file on the main system and bring it over to the jail. So what we can do is sudo remove, let's see if it's even there. We're going to say etc hosts. Didn't get any errors. So now what I'm going to do is sudo copy etc hosts in there. Didn't get any errors, so let's just see if we can cat it. And that looks good. We got R01, R01 blue, R01 red, B01, and that's pretty much what we're looking for. So now that we've done that, let's see if we can actually log in and get where we need to go. Let's go to command, SSH, Alice at 10.3.0.10, user pass. Okay, it says we're in the terminal, but I didn't get an ID error. So I think it recognized me. But let's be sure. Present working directory. Look at that. I'm in Alice. I'm in my home directory. Let's do this. Let's just make sure that this is working properly. Let's sudo. Let's see if we can touch a file in Bob's directory. Bob. We're going to say welcome bob.txt. I think that worked. So if we ls home Bob, let's sudo, sorry. The normal home directory for Bob has nothing in there. But Acme Tools, Alt Root, Home Bob has welcome Bob. Let's see if that actually works. SSH Bob at 10.3.0.10, user pass, present working directory is home Bob, which is perfect, and let's ls welcome -l. Perfect. Looks really, really good, and we can see because we use sudo to create this file, it's showing up as root as well instead of Alice. So this looks good. It looks like we did this perfectly. Let's see if we can SSH root at B01. Looks good so far. And there we go. We were able to do that. So now we are in B01. So let's just exit this. We'll exit this, we can close this, but we have just completed all of this. So if you want, you can take another snapshot and we can move on to the next part. The next part's not really that difficult. Basically it says add VI and nano to the jail. So basically we just have to add VI and nano to the jail the same way that we did SSH. Here is the information that you're going to want. All you have to do is say sudo yum -- install root equals Acme Tools, Alt Root, install VI. Yes. And we'll do the same thing for nano. Says it's in there, so let's see if it is. Well, command prompt this, and we will SSH Bob at 10.3.0.10. User pass, And remember, we weren't able to use the VI editor before. We tested that here and it didn't work. So now we can easily just type in VI welcome Bob, and it's working. And we can say it says warning, changing a read-only file because root created it, and that's okay. We can quit it. We don't need to do it. If anything, we can create our own. But we can also use nano now. Say nano, Simon is awesome. .txt. Now we can say it's true, and we can exit this. So Control X, save it, yes, and enter. And now you can see we have these files here, and it's all good. So that was really, really easy. Part F is basically showing you can easily put in the services that you need if you wanted to. I don't know if it's PS. Let's see if you can install PS. That's alright. Either way, if you know the package that you need and it's not already installed, then you should be able to run it no problem. So we have done part F. The next part is basically you submitting this on your own. You have to basically submit a set of instructions describing the steps required to add a user to Geo1. So basically, you don't have to worry about adding them in the jail. Just adding them with your locked system. So you can't add them as root. You have to add them using sudo, and you have to make sure that they have the ability to SSH into their account, and they will go into the jail. So don't worry about making sure that you add them in the jail necessarily, like from the jail. So you're not adding them from the jail, you're just making sure that you're adding the user to the system and giving them a jail for themselves, so that if they SSH, and they should be able to SSH into their account, they go into the jail and the home directory of their account in the jail. So if you have any questions about that, you'll have to see your teacher. I hope this video was helpful, and thank you very much for watching. This is, again, the second video, and there's only 2 videos for the test that's coming up. I know that there is a Lab 8, but it's not actually covered on the test, so you don't have to worry about that. But this video does cover stuff that will be on the test, apparently. And good luck on that. So let me know how it goes. Again, if you have questions, let me know. As long as it has nothing to do with grading, I will be happy to help. So take it easy. I'll see you soon.